We're talking Bolivia and Latin America today with journalist, educator, and activist Alex Suarez.
And we got a whole lot more news for you today here on The Undercurrent.
Happy hump
Uncle
day.
Lauren.
Yeah, it is. It's Auntie Laney. What's going on?
We've been having Noah's Ark style rain down here the past couple of days. I mean, you may have saw on Facebook yesterday, the rain coming down. Same thing this morning. It's crazy. Cats and dogs living together and raining down like cats and dogs.
I've come to find that Illinois is two states, right? You have the northern climate, which we get our fair share of rain up here, but it's always southern Illinois and that area of the country. Your neck of the woods is included in that too, and just getting hammered, tornadoes, just thunderstorms, lots of rain. And I know a lot of parts of the country need rain, but it's not coming down in buckets. It was coming down in bathtubs.
It was crazy.
That much.
I think a lot of people in Illinois don't realize how long the state is.
Yeah,
I think they really just don't understand that it goes right there, that there was a secessionist movement in Southern Illinois during the first Civil War. They don't realize just how different it all is.
Yeah. I mean, you can say the same thing about Mississippi too, because you have the Gulf Coast area. That's Hurricane Alley right down there. And then you get to North Mississippi and you're on the tail end of Tornado Alley.
Yeah.
So, and it's, and they get ice storms and stuff up there. It's really wild. And it's not as tall. I think Illinois is a lot taller north to south than a lot of states in the country. So
I don't think we just don't see it because I think it's in the middle, and you see it being dwarfed by, say, California or Texas.
Yeah.
And you just don't see it, but it's actually really, really long. And trying to explain this to people doesn't always work. You have to actually drive it, I think, to understand just how long it is.
And people in Rhode Island have no clue because that place is as big as a sugar cube.
I mean, you blink and you're somewhere else. Somewhere else. So.
I'm in Connecticut. I'm in Massachusetts. You can't even, by the time you say Rhode Island, you've already passed through it. So anybody listening from Rhode Island, by the way, we're not crapping on your state. We're just saying
it's a beautiful state. I've been there. It's a beautiful state.
Yeah, that's where Quahog's is, right? And the Family Guy, isn't that where that's from?
Yeah, I believe so. I
lowish. We got a lot to get to. We got Alex coming in probably about 25-30 minutes to talk about Bolivia and pieces of Latin
It's going to be really interesting, I think.
Especially with current events that's going on down there right now. So, but we got other news to get to as I find the thing. What am I doing with my life? I have no idea. Let's get to the Riptide, rippity doo dah. As of course, primaries going on right now. The big elections in November, but one of the biggest ones, and I don't know if this is shocking or not to some people, but it's definitely an eye opener as Thomas Massie concedes to Ed Galrain as Trump's chosen primary candidate wins. So he conceded last night. So President Donald Trump's handpicked challenger to run against incumbent U.S. Representative Thomas Massie has won the Republican primary for Kentucky's 4th congressional district. And I believe Massie was a 7-time winner of these races up until now. We're going to get to some weird numbers here in a second. Hang on just a second. Galrain, a Shelbyville farmer and former Navy SEAL who has pledged to back Trump's agenda, is set to represent the GOP on the ballot in November general election after winning the May 19th race in northern Kentucky. In a speech after the race was called, Massie told supporters at his election night party that he called Galrain to concede. He thanked supporters, noting many were younger. "You are patriots and you will inherit this country and you will make it better," Massie said. There is a yearning in this country for someone who will vote for principles over party. You don't like bullies, and you won't tolerate it, and I love you for it, he said, adding money poured into the election because his well-heeled opponents decided to buy the seat. And I don't have the numbers right now, but I think apparently Gallery et al. Spent $20 million on this race, the most expensive House race in history, I believe. I could be wrong about that. We have smart people in the chat.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. You can do a lot of things with $20 million, and apparently you can buy an election in Kentucky. Gallery, who'd been critical of Massey throughout the primary for at times opposing Trump's agenda, thanked Trump for his endorsement and his family and staff, along with his teachers. We got a saying on the farm, the family farm is a contact sport. I can tell you that campaigning is as well, isn't it, folks? He said on stage, peering back toward his campaign team. And yeah, and what happened here was there was video of Gallery's election night victory. There's probably like maybe 10 people in the room, right? You know, yay. And you know, my sinister my suspicious mind says, I bet you a lot of those people were paid to be there. But this was definitely one of those races where outside money influenced it. And to kind of, I don't know, let me get the numbers up here real quick. So this is from Sam Parker on Twitter. Let me see if I can bring this up a little bit. So it said, did Massey get 2020? Massey increased his turnout by 19% over 2024. Gallery increased the opposition turnout by 357%. Today's turnout doubled 2024's and the highest overall vote total in Kentucky history. Was this really driven by the get out the vote millions? Suspicious. Yeah. So let's look at the thing here. It's like from 24 to 26, he increased his 19%, and then 356.6% for the opponent, which is insane. And looking at numbers here. So this is the Republican primary for Kentucky's 4th congressional district. It was a poll. So 18 to 29, age 18 to 9 voters has 78.5%, 30 to 44, 64.9%. These are all in favor of Massey. 45 to 64, age 53.3%, and then 65 and above, 35%. Supported Massey, and the rest supported Gallery. So
what we're seeing, though, is that the younger folks were supporting Massey,
right,
and did not, you know, well, I'll leave that there.
Yeah, they it's interesting too, and you and I were discussing this before the show, as I was saying that the Gallery campaign had put out this AI video basically showing Massey and Ilhan Omar, representative out of Minnesota, and of course AOC out of New York, walking hand in hand into a hotel room. And looking at those age numbers, it seems to me, and I'm not trying to be ageist, but the 65 and older crowd obviously cannot tell AI from real life, and I believe that's one of the things. But those numbers, 356% jump. That's a bit as the pencil artists say, that's a bit sketchy. See what I did there with the pen and the thing. Well, meanwhile, Trump's got another one, and this time he's going after another one of his own, John Cornyn, who's a big he's been in the Senate for quite some time. So Trump endorses Ken Paxton in the Senate GOP runoff against Cornyn. Oh, what did you do, Corny? I call him Corny because, hello, you're going to work? Okay. So yesterday, Trump endorsed Ken Paxton in the Republican runoff for U.S. Senate in Texas, ending over a year of furious lobbying and giving the Attorney General a significant boost in his campaign against Senator John Cornyn. Ken is a true MAGA warrior who has always delivered for Texas and will continue to do so in the United States Senate. Trump or somebody wrote on social media for him, praising Paxton's support for ending the Senate filibuster and the GOP signature voting restrictions bill, and dinging Cornyn for being late to support his 2024 presidential bid. John Cornyn is a good man, and I worked well with him, but he was not supportive of me when times were tough. Petty, 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 petty. In a statement, Paxton said he was honored by the endorsement, looking forward to championing it. So I just wanted to throw that one in there too, as we're seeing desperation for real in these elections. They didn't want Massey, and apparently Trump just doesn't want anybody who has any kind of opinion against him in these.
Yeah, he's making it very clear. He wants lockstep loyalty.
Yeah, that sounds like what.
And no consideration for the people who are being, and he even said that when the recent, it was the IRS case, which we'll talk about later. But he basically said, no, it was about it was about Iran, saying that he didn't care about how this was going to impact.
Yeah, like gas prices and stuff.
And he has made it very clear that he does not care about the people who are supposed to be being represented by these officials. He is strictly going for absolute loyalty, which is, the thing is, I'll tell you, I have learned in my 57 years on this planet about the importance of having people around me whose loyalty means that they are willing to criticize me, and they're willing to confront me, and they're willing to say, hey, this, and, they're willing to lay out their issues, their observations, and be honest with me. That is what I think true loyalty and friendship is about. For Donald Trump, loyalty is, will you kiss his butt? And will you do as he says? And will you jump up to, or actually bend over to lick his boots?
Among other things. Yeah. That's where we're at. This is the tyrant, strong man portion of the show. Yeah. Right. He knows that the only obstacle he has left is the midterms, and the fact that the House and Senate more than likely are going to go over to the Democrats. Now, that's not to say the Democrats are going to actually do anything, but he doesn't know that. All he knows is Democrat bad, Democrat bad, Democrat bad. We got to stop him, got to stop him, got to stop him. And he helped pour a lot of he endorsed this guy in Kentucky over Massey, and $20 million pouring into that northern Kentucky district, and AI too. And the thing is, if Massey doesn't call them out on that AI video, if he doesn't do something legally about that, then that sets a precedent for anybody. Now you're going to see ads just full. You probably already do ads full of AI showing people doing things that they never did or never said. It's not just
ads, it's reels on Instagram and Facebook actually is glutted with them now. Of reels showing people doing dastardly horrible things, and if you're not paying attention, you would very easily think that they're just some kind of candid reel that somebody's using their cell phone to shoot in public. And to think about the absolute impact that this is going to have on people's opinions of how dangerous things are out there, for example, or they may assume that people of one race are doing things to people of another race. This can be used to inflame all kinds of tensions, and it's not always super clear from those videos because they're short, they're reels, and the shorter the reel, the more successful they are. And that's how they grasp people's attention. And it's making money for the creators. And one has to wonder about some of these creators who may be working for other governments or other organizations that have very specific interests in swaying public opinion. And you and I have been talking about it. We've talked about it a little while ago, I think, Uncle Warren, about would AI, would video, are we going to come to a point where video is no longer admissible in court or considered to be reliable evidence?
Yeah.
And we're seeing this now. And as I said to you before the show, everything I don't like is AI. Everything I do like is real. And I think that's going to be the way many people are going to be thinking. And again, what happens to truth at that point?
Yeah. A little breaking news here as we're talking about
Yes.
politicians. Barney Frank, former Massachusetts congressman, he died. He died at 86 years old. So, yeah, he was a big influence in the Clinton during the Clinton years. I think during the Bush years, Bush Jr. years as well too. So, yeah. So Barney Frank no longer with us. But let's get back to Trumpy. And this time talking about his taxes. First off, let's shout out people here in the chat. We got Game.film, CBC voter. We got Chuck in the house. Good to see all of y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us today. So the U.S. government agrees to drop tax claims against Trump in broadening of IRS lawsuit settlement. Oh boy. The proverbial rich get richer. The U.S. government will permanently drop tax claims against Trump, according to a settlement document that is part of a deal to resolve Trump's $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS over the leak of his tax returns. As part of the settlement agreement, the U.S. is, quote, forever barred and precluded from examining or prosecuting Trump, his sons, and the Trump organization's current tax issues, according to a one-page document posted to the Department of Justice website yesterday.
Justice.
Yeah, that
Department
that should be in quotes too, the justice part. The Trump administration announced Monday the creation of a nearly $1.8 billion fund to compensate allies of the Republican president who believe they have been unjustly investigated and prosecuted. There's that door swinging wide open. An arrangement that Democrats and government watchdogs derided as corrupt and unconstitutional. The anti-weaponization fund of $1.776 billion.
1776.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that interesting?
Isn't that cute?
America. America will allow people who believe they were targeted for prosecution for political purposes, including by the Biden administration Justice Department, to apply for payouts, creating what acting Attorney General Todd Blanche called a lawful process for victims of lawfare and weaponization to be heard and seek redress. Blanche, who was grilled by lawmakers on Capitol Hill on Tuesday, would not rule out the possibility that people who carried out violence during the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol will be considered for payouts from the new fund. Yeah, those are just the little peons. They don't get nothing. Democratic lawmakers and ethics watchdogs slammed the creation of the fund, saying it was corrupt, opaque, and had the potential to become a slush fund for the president and his allies. The potential, yeah, that is straight up a slush fund. I'm sorry. According to a separate settlement agreement posted to the DOJ website Monday, Trump will receive a formal apology from the U.S. government, but will not receive any monetary payment or damages of any kind from the settlement. Trump told reporters at the White House on Monday the fund is dedicated to reimbursing people who were horribly treated. Yeah, so that's a slush fund.
It's one of those things you're watching it, and I believe that, again, this has been very carefully modeled or created. The whole thing. He'll apologize to himself. Yes. And I think Chuck has it. He sued himself, then settled with himself and applied immunity to himself. How are you humans not rolling up with pitchforks and torches? I think that this was created to this whole decision was crafted to have people sputtering with outrage, but also being so confused that we're not hauling out the pitchforks and torches. The 1776 settlement. I mean,
yeah, that's a bit too on the nose right there.
And that he's basically crafted a slush fund, which can be used, of course, to buy loyalty, particularly among some people who could really need that money, who absolutely. It is stunning and brave, I guess the way I would put it, to see this happening.
Yeah.
It is so there. It is so right out in front. This level of corruption, and then that this is where we're at in the American story.
Yeah. And this story is getting crappier and crappier by the week, it seems. And it's just going to get worse between now and November, especially in these primaries, people's loyalty to Trump being tested. And you're probably going to see some familiar faces. You already see Massey, he got booted. Probably Cornyn's going to lose too if Trump's backing his opponent. And if he's he's not. You're probably not going to see the.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean. I'm sorry. I'm from Uncle Warren. I want to mention that Paxton's wife, or now ex-wife, I guess, announced that I think it was on Twitter that she was divorcing him on biblical grounds last year.
Biblical grounds.
Biblical grounds.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I'm just going to leave that right there.
What, he eats shellfish? What the hell, man? What was he?
He was eating something else, I think. Or maybe not. He may not. Yeah, we'll not go there.
Wait a minute. I think we got a thing for that. What we got? Is there? It's not exactly a rim shot, but okay. But it's bongos.
Uncle Warren.
But this is where we're at. I mean, I don't think you're going to see the influx of money like you saw going into Massey's race with Cornyn, but you don't need to, because Cornyn's already on that side anyway with the big money that was coming in. But it's just the whole fact that, this thing if Massey can be toppled, it means anybody can be toppled. And now he's free and clear with the IRS, which I think is probably a conflict of interest because doesn't he control the IRS himself? Remains to be seen. Talk about our world going to shit, Lainey. More shootings, this time in San Diego, as the mosque shooting there to be investigated as a hate crime. Two gunmen aged 17 and 18 carried out a shooting attack at a mosque in the Southern California city of San Diego on Monday, killing 3 men. And then themselves, the shooting is being investigated as a hate crime, with the 2 suspects reported by police to have engaged in generalized hate rhetoric. Police said the shooting at the mosque was preceded by a call by the mother of one of the shooters to police in the morning, saying that the boy had run away with her weapons and vehicle and that she feared he was suicidal. As police were searching for the boy, additionally, alarmed by information that he was dressed in camouflage and had a companion, reports arrived of a shooting at the Islamic Center of San Diego, some 9 miles from the city center. When police arrived, more shots were fired a few blocks away. The shooters were then found dead with apparently self-inflicted gun wounds in a vehicle stopped in the middle of a road nearby, according to San Diego Police Chief Scott Wall. Wall said no officers fired their weapons at the scene. Wall said a security guard at the mosque was among the 3 people killed in the attack and that his response had helped prevent more deaths. His actions were heroic and he undoubtedly saved lives today, Wall said. The identities of the other 2 victims were not immediately clear. The Islamic Center also houses a school, but its director, Imam Taha Hassani, said none of the students was harmed. We have never experienced tragedy like this before, Hassani said. And at this moment, all that I can say is sending our prayers and standing in solidarity with all the families in our community here. Hassani said the center promoted interfaith relations, that a group of non-Muslims had been visiting it earlier on Monday to learn more about Islam. So once again, the fabric of society disintegrating before our eyes. I mean, I know shootings like this are not new, but in the current situation, it just adds more to the chaos that's going on, in our country and the world too, for that matter.
I've been following this closely, along with another shooting, which has not gotten quite a shooting spree that happened over the weekend in Austin, Texas, where some teenage boys went on a rampage, and I don't believe anybody died. but at least I believe around 12 people were shot. And that many of these folks, according to what I heard, that in most cases, these were not targeted shootings. I'm obviously deeply concerned about this for a number of reasons. We're seeing young men, in this case, teenage boys, who it sounds like, at least in the case of the mosque shooting, were radicalized online. I saw some of their manifesto, and one of the boys was white. Another boy was Mexican and very European. But he was talking about his support for the white race, which I thought was interesting. But they had been radicalized online. We know that there are certain groups that are very nihilistic groups that are trying to influence young people, encouraging them into violent behaviors, and in some cases blackmailing them, encouraging them to injure themselves, to injure other people. It's really disturbing what I am now seeing. I do not know what happened down in Austin, Texas. There hasn't been a lot about it in the media, and that's a whole other separate situation. I did see some of the young men who were doing that, but again, very disturbing to see this sort of thing happening. Probably worth a show dedicated to it. My heart goes out to all of the victims. Those children, they may not have been physically harmed at that Islamic school, but mentally, I cannot imagine what they and their parents are going through. This is disturbing, and these are disturbing times.
We got Alex backstage. We're going to get to him in just a second, but I wanted to get to the couple of these stories first before we bring him in. This first from Venezuela: deported Maduro ally charged with money laundering in the United States. So a close associate of ousted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro made his first appearance in Miami federal court after being sent to the U.S. over the weekend to face money laundering charges. Alex Saab, a Colombian businessman who became one of Venezuela's most influential financial operators, on Monday stood before a U.S. judge in handcuffs and khaki prison fatigues, his hair still in a signature ponytail. Es correcto, señoría. It's correct, Your Honor, Saab answered. U.S. Magistrate Judge Marty Fulguera Elfenbein in Spanish after she asked him if he understood the charges. The May 16th deportation and subsequent court appearance of Saab, who once served as Venezuela's Ministry of Industry, represents the most significant legal cooperation between the U.S. Justice Department and the administration of acting Venezuelan President Delcy Rodriguez since Maduro's capture by U.S. forces in January. And looking at Bolivia. So Bolivia rejects state emergency amid protest violence. And this is what we're going to be talking a little bit more in depth with Alex here in just a second. First, let's get the nuts and bolts out here. So Bolivia's government has ruled out declaring a state of emergency despite escalating violence linked to nationwide protests that have left dozens injured and detained while causing multi-million-dollar losses through road blockades across the country. Presidential spokesman Jose Luis Galvez and government minister Marco Antonio Oviedo said Tuesday imposing the constitutional measure would deepen social polarization. According to authorities, a state of emergency could allow protest groups to portray themselves as political victims and gain sympathy through domestic and international public opinion. Media press said violence and chaos engulfed downtown La Paz on Monday. Thousands of demonstrators and supporters of former President Evo Morales marched from El Alto and attempted to break through police barricades. We have a little video of that to show you in just a second, to enter Plaza Murillo in La Paz, demanding the resignation of President Rodrigo Paz. And let's go ahead and bring in Alex. Of course, as we said, Alex is a man who wears many hats. He's an educator. He's a historian. He's a journalist, activist. Alex, good to see you, my friend.
Hi, Alex.
Hello from the Florida wilderness.
I see you there. Watch out for those gators down there.
I'm actually I'm actually about to set up a protest camp here. No, just kidding. Been plenty of those.
Get the alligators involved. I'm pretty sure if you got alligators on your side, nobody's going to mess
It's
with
great
the
weather
protesters.
today for hiking. You know, I went outside of Jacksonville to go hiking at this spot, and I figured we could do the show from here because internet works fine for me. We're not quite in the Everglades, so I'd done that before though. When I came back to Florida from Standing Rock, we had our own protest camp with the Seminoles in the Everglades.
Right on. Right on.
But
look, man, a good day weather-wise in Florida. You're blessed, dude.
Oh yeah, yesterday was too hot. Yesterday I went to the beach a little bit, and I'm like, hell no, I'm not going hiking today. But that's the beautiful thing about Florida. Literally 30 minutes from each other, you got the forest and the beach. It's all out here, man. Politically, it sucks under the Satan regime. I don't call him DeSantis, the Satan. Politically, the political climate sucks, but the climate's okay usually.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're not walking in Florida. You're swimming through the air because of all the humidity. That's for sure.
That's
so.
true. But the weather, you know, at least it's not super cold like where I'm from originally. I was born in Boston.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
The winter there, I couldn't stand it. But the only thing I liked about the winter when I used to go skiing up in Vermont, but I don't like the cold weather. And South Florida is worse than this part of Florida. I'm in Northeast Florida, so it's not too bad. I used to live in South Florida. That was worse when it came to heat. Yeah.
Especially like around the Keys area too. It's just like you're just swimming in the air. I live close to New Orleans.
Why do you think most of the pictures of Hemingway he had his shirt off? He was either in the Keys or in Florida in those shots because it was so hot and you have air conditioning then. You just had fans. So he's always has his shirt off. People think, oh, he's showing his chest. He's all manly. That was part of it. The machismo was part of it, but it was also because of the weather. Because you like to be in the tropics, you know?
Yeah, you gotta have that. You gotta have that personal air conditioning.
But anyways, there's a double irony when it comes to the name Paz and Bolivia.
Let's talk about it.
Just in case, my father's from Peru, and Bolivia is the most similar country to Peru in the world. Not only because of the dialect of Peruvian Spanish, Bolivian Spanish being nearly identical, but twice in history, Bolivia was the same country as Peru. Bolivia was the same country as Peru under the Spaniards. They called it Alto Peru, or meaning like the high region of Peru, because that's where a lot of the mountains were, are. And it was also part of the Inca, what they call the Inca Empire. So the Aymara, who were Evo Morales' people, right, the former president of Venezuela, they were kind of like a rivaling tribes of the Inca and were subdued by the Incas and then incorporated the Incas and treated good once they became part of the territory. But yeah, twice over, that country's been part of Peru, and my father's Peruvian, so I'm very familiar. I've been in the area. I know its history. It's where Che Guevara was killed. It's where, what's the name? What are the name of those two, the Sundance Kid and what was the other guy?
Butch and Sundance.
Butch Cassidy.
Yeah, they called it a Mexican standoff, but it was actually a Bolivian standoff. They died in Bolivia.
Yeah, we're showing some video right now of what's going on in Bolivia as the
those are the Ponchos Rojos. The Ponchos Rojos, they wear their ponchos, which is pronounced poncho in Spanish. That's a weird way to say it. They wear their red ponchos, and they're indigenous people, mostly Aymara, that are rebelling against the Paz regime. Now, here's the double irony about Paz. Do you guys know what the word Paz means in Spanish?
I just know you color eggs with it on the Easter. That's the only thing I know about Paz.
Well, no, I'm fluent. Paz means peace. Paz means peace. And this is the guy who's the dictator of Bolivia with full Trump regime backing, who's provoking civil war right now. He's a narco as well. We'll get into that. But just like the Bo in Ecuador, Trump loves narcos as long as they're on the right. But so Paz, his name means peace. And not only that, the second capital of Bolivia is called La Paz, the peace. And now you have La Paz up in flames because of this dictator, Rodrigo Paz. And this guy, he represents the white elites of Bolivia. Do you know where he was born? He wasn't even born in Bolivia. He was born in Spain. And you had a guy you had a guy before him that was one of the right-wing dictators that literally spoke Spanish with a gringo accent because he left Bolivia as an infant with his white family and grew up and was educated in the United States. It can't be any more obvious. You got the Spanish Empire and the U.S. Empire, and they're imposing on the Bolivian people, taking advantage of divisions of the left. And the Poncho Rojos are rising up. It's very exciting. You had a declassified secret military operation between the CIA and the Paz regime with Argentine help that they were going to assassinate or capture Evo Morales and his compound. And that got exposed before it could happen. And then the people rose up. They had enough. They said, no, you're going to kill Evo Morales too? No. And they've been privatizing everything, you know, rolling back on all the social programs from about 20 years of socialist governments, democratic socialist governments, mind you. And so now people are fed up with Paz and they're rising up. So the Bolivian situation is very promising, and the Peruvian situation is very promising, because Peru, you're going to have runoff elections next month, and it's Keiko Fujimori once again, who represents, you know, the ideology of fascism of her Japanese Peruvian father, who was dictator of Peru. And Fujimori is going against, I believe his name's Roberto Sanchez, who's part of the political party of Pedro Castillo, who was in prison, who was the last legitimate president of Peru. He's saying he's going to free him. And yeah, that's there. Roberto Sanchez with the rondero hat. They call him rondero, which kind of like the word sombrero. Yeah, and so the ronderos, they come out of principally Cajamarca, where my grandmother was born. Cajamarca is a great historical significance because that's the city where the Spaniards killed the last Inca ruler, Atahualpa.
Oh, wow.
Atahualpa was very intelligent. They had him captured for several months. He learned how to play chess. He found the Spaniards had seen the gold and silver and didn't see it like them, which is religious ornaments, but as, you know, wealth. And so he used that and said, I will send my runners to the four corners of my domain to collect gold and silver and fill these two chambers of gold and silver for ransom in exchange for freeing me. And of course, the Spaniards took the wealth, and then they made the excuse that one of his generals was going to free him, and they assassinated him.
So, Alex, what do you think? So, everybody's at the gates pushing in. It looks like Paz may be done down there, right?
Yeah, so my prediction, you want my prediction, all the history down there, yes, I'll tell you this. Not only is Sanchez going to win, just like Castillo won, and Castillo is going to be freed, his family's going to return from Mexico. So not only is the left going to rise up in June in Peru, I think Paz is going to be on a helicopter out of Bolivia in an amount of days. And they're going to have new elections, and maybe Evo Morales will return to power. This will be great.
Yeah, now, I was about to ask you,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the possibility of Morales coming back.
Well, the thing is, the former president, this is why they took advantage of the divisions of the left. The former president, who was the economic minister of Morales and helped bring Morales back from exile when he was in Argentina. First, Morales went to Mexico under AMLO, then to Argentina when they switched governments there. Now you have Milei, who's another fanatical right-winger. Don't even get me started on him in Argentina. But Arce, you know, they kind of had the vision within the socialist party in Bolivia. And Arce got imprisoned, not by Evo Morales. Evo Morales was in power then. He got imprisoned after Paz took over in elections that, whether they were rigged or not, they were taking advantage of the divisions of the left. We'll put it that way. He didn't say he was going to privatize everything he did. The people feel defrauded. They want him out. And so, Arce is still behind bars. But I think Evo Morales, to signal unity, when he gets, when this is successful, when this rebellion is successful, he'll free Arce. And there was a young man, I forget his name, of the Socialist Party in Bolivia, not very well known, that was able to run because Arce couldn't run for another term. They lost the referendum on that where they couldn't run 3 times. And Evo Morales was barred from running over some trumped up charges. So the young socialist, because he wasn't known, because of divisions on the left, the right wing, unfortunately, for the first time in 20 plus years, had won in Bolivia. And now we have the situation a year later that we're in right now where the economy is in ruins, much like you see in Argentina since the right took over there. So that's why you're seeing this reaction or response for the masses who are largely indigenous, majority of the population, including also the militant leftist Poncho Rojo. Some of them are armed, and they're shutting stuff down in La Paz and other parts of the country because they want to, recuperate power and gain their rights back.
Well, how does that bode for the rest of South America? Like there's stuff going on in Ecuador as well, too, right?
Well, that's the Noboa regime I alluded to earlier. They're also a narco regime. So Noboa's, I'd say Paz is also narco, of course, but Noboa, his family have a monopoly on the banana products. So he was born with a silver mouth in what I call a silver spoon in his mouth. And so his family, back generations, have been narcos. We know that. And they fill the banana cartons full of cocaine. They send them to Europe and the United States. Trump loves that because Trump will falsely accuse the real leaders of being narcos when they're on the left. But when they're actual narcos, like Noboa, like the former president of Honduras, like Paz, he'll fully support them. So that's what we're dealing with. So in regions in Latin America, like Bolivia, whenever Morales expelled the DEA, there was no cartels after that. The cartels only come when the United States come. The United States invents most of the cartels. So once the U.S. is out of there, that's where the drug trade stops.
Right.
And so the United States loves backing dictators with drugs. They've always done it for decades. But as soon as somebody stands up and goes after the narcos and clamps down on the cartels and actually represents the people, then they do projection and call them narcos.
Yeah, it's just so hypocritical when you call Maduro a narco terrorist, but then you actually pardon a real narco terrorist. What was he from? El Salvador? Where was he from?
Honduras. The former dictator Hernandez. Yeah. When they had legitimate elections, you had Xiomara Zelaya de Castro that got elected there. She eventually lost power, but those elections were rigged. I mean, Trump threatened to cut off all aid if they didn't vote for the narco party and return Hernandez, to Honduras. It's like unbelievable. And I blame also in part Hollywood, because Trump probably figured I can falsely accuse Maduro of being narco, and most Americans will not get away with it, will believe me, because they're ignorant and they watch Hollywood, where every single show on Netflix is written by DEA guys that want to portray us Latinos as narcos. So of course they're going to believe it. So Hollywood's in league with the CIA and with that perception of Latin people, Latin leaders, And also think about it. Angela Merkel, right? She's considered the greatest chancellor in Germany's history. She was elected 5 times. And when Biden was praising her while calling Maduro a dictator because he was elected 3 times, I said, here's the hypocrisy. The reason why he'll praise a person elected 5 times, but call another one elected 3 times dictator, number one, she's white. And number 2, the Germans have no oil. They rely on Russian oil, or did. And so, because of the abundance of oil in these regions, because these are people of color, then you want to go ahead and call them dictator.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, especially when they don't toe the line that you're putting out there too, right? Like you said, these right-wing leaders down there who are in league with Trump, yes, they seem to be doing fine under without getting invaded and having their leaders stolen like that. So, but I mean, with Maduro and with Saab, I know you didn't want to comment on Venezuela with that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. I'm very transparent about why I don't want to comment on it right now. Not only because I don't know all the details yet, because you don't want to comment something not controversial without knowing all the details, but also any comments I make right now is going to cause division. You know what I'm saying? So I very publicly have advocated for the Venezuelan people. I don't want to cause any division or violence down there. A lot of people listen to me in the English and the Spanish language, and I don't want my words to be used to make civil war or more divisions to hurt the people down there. So for now I'm looking into it, but I will talk about the things I know about what's going on right now, which is definitely Bolivia. And I think it's a very hopeful situation because the majority of the people are against Paz, and he's got to get out of there. He could have escaped already, and they just haven't reported it, but he's got to get out of there.
Yeah, there were rumors about him leaving, but none of those were confirmed. But if Bolivia falls, I mean, in that respect, and Morales is able to get back into power, do you think that bodes well for other countries in South America?
Well, there could be young, charismatic Bolivian socialist leaders like the one who ran in the last election, that they'll give him another shot and he can run. And then people will see what it's like being under the right for a year and how bad it got. And those people that were like neutral, that weren't sure how they were going to vote or maybe didn't turn out, then for the next election, they will. And so hopefully that'll turn it to the left so that Arce can be freed, that Evo Morales can still be freely in his country, and that the left turn will turn in our favor, in favor of the indigenous people, the masses in Peru and other parts of the region. Maybe Ecuador eventually too.
Yeah, it seems like, and we don't have to go into great detail, but like when you mention Argentina, it just seems bizarre that these people voted against their own interests when they
just voted the son of a Nazi in the Chile. Literally, like Cast is a German name. His father was one of the Nazis the CIA sent down to South America to support Pinochet. We know that. And he had the same ideology as his father. Now he's president of Chile. So people are just like, why? When you had a center-left president before Cast, when you had a center-left president, Fernandez in Argentina, or I can't think of his name, Boric in Chile. Why is the center-left guys lose to far right wingers? Why? To Milei and to Cast. And I'll tell you exactly why. I'll tell you exactly why. When you have a left light presidential candidate or president in functions, left light, that says, oh, we're the left, but we're not Venezuela. Oh, we're the left, but we're not Nicaragua. Oh, we're the left, but we're not Cuba. They're causing division. And when the left is demoralized, that's when the right rises up. Mm-hmm. And you can say the same thing about the United States. Think about it.
I was just thinking that.
Biden was left light. Bernie was more to the left. There was people even farther to the left than Bernie, like Jill Stein. But, you know, Biden was considered left light. And people got tired of it and didn't want another left-light person like Kamala in power, and then somebody from the far right rose up, Trump. The same thing can be said about Latin America in that sense.
Yeah, it's just so funny when I hear like people on the right call Biden a Marxist or a communist, and I'm like, what are you fucking talking about?
I mean, I'm even to the left. I'm even to the left of Bernie, man. I'm a socialist, but yes, I mean, because of the propaganda system, people consider Biden left-light, and there's conservatives in Canada and Europe that would be, by American standards, considered socialist. So it's, you know, more complex than they're trying to put it.
Right, exactly. Well, let's shift over to Cuba and what's going on there. We have a story coming up. I'm going to talk.
By the way, I've been there too. Not only have I been to Venezuela as an lecture observer, I've been to Cuba.
Yeah. So what's your take on what's going on there? No power down there now. How are they being so resilient?
So there is a program right now that is, I'm not gonna say it's the cure for Alzheimer's, but it's the nearest thing to it. There's testimonials of a group of Americans that went down to Cuba a few months ago. Beautiful testimonials. They went down there with their families, you know, Alzheimer's patients. And they were saying once they took this Cuban medicine, that, you know, they went back to their old selves. They started posting online again for the first time in 3 years. Incredible stories of this medicine that millions of us Americans cannot access for our families because of the embargo. Right. So they talk about the blockade embargo as the Cuban people suffering. That's absolutely true. They suffer more than anybody from it. And despite that, they have incredible advances in medicine and science. However, Americans, more of us would have less amputations if we had access to Cuban medicine. You know, Cubans have a medicine that cures amputation, that prevents your leg from being amputated, that we don't have access to. They have a lung cancer vaccine. Cubans live longer than us, and they smoke cigars all the time. How's that? Because they have a lung cancer vaccine since the 90s that they invented during the special period when they lost the Soviet support because they're incredibly resourceful people. When they have an obstacle, they invent something else. COVID, they invented their own COVID vaccine when Trump would not permit needles or any vaccines to get into Cuba. They invented their own one. That's the Cuban people. With little, they do incredibly much. And we suffer as a result. More of us die from cancer. More of us suffer from Alzheimer's. More of us get amputations because we don't have access to the incredible Cuban medicine. Now, think of this. If they lifted the embargo, think of everything they could invent down the social system there. If they did that with all the obstacles. That's why I admire the Cuban Revolution. Because they don't want Americans to know the truth. They don't want us to travel down there. Because if we know the socialist example in countries like Venezuela and Cuba, that despite all these obstacles have made incredible gains for their people in these past decades, then we would try to have our own revolution here. They don't want that.
Yeah, I always use the example of, you know, somebody getting like, so you're driving down the road and you hit somebody in their car and they can't do anything to fight back or whatever, and they say, see, look, this person's weak. And it's like, that's what it seems like, even though the United States has been doing this with this blockade for 60 something years.
Here's a better analogy. You just destroyed the guy's car, and out of a few pieces of metal, he built a new one.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you complain, that car is not in that great shape. Yeah, because you let up with a few pieces of metal.
Yeah, well, that's kind of literally in Cuba because they do that. They repair their own cars. They don't.
Well, they still have cars from the 1950s. The U.S. won't let them import cars, so they have automobiles, and now they have no gasoline. They use horse and buggy. They're going to do what they got to do to survive. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very resilient. Did you have any questions, Lainey, for about South America or anything? Because it's. Our boy Alex here is he is like a walking encyclopedia, and for the kids out there, encyclopedia is a
literally. I'm walking on a hiking trail right now.
Yeah, and you're getting some great comments about your chops too. I'm a big Martin.
I'm old school, man. I'm old school.
I'm a big Martin Van Buren fan, only for his side chops. I don't really care about his politics or anything, but those chops, magnificent. I can never grow them. So South America, right? It seems like it's just in total, it's kind of in flux, right? There's not really your stability.
Let me give you an example. So the other day in Venezuela, this is not touching Alex Saab, but the other day in Venezuela, there was a U.S. official that facilitated $2 million going to one of the hospitals that was run down in Caracas, right? And he went to inspect to make sure the $2 million was used correctly. And this is the analogy that was given by Venezuela Analysis, which is a great website you should check out with stories in English about Venezuela, venezuelaanalysis.com. And they said, this is like, they said billions of dollars we lost to our healthcare system because of U.S. sanctions the past few years. This is like somebody going to your bakery, stealing all of your bread, and then coming back and giving you a few crumbs and said, let me inspect to see if you use these crumbs okay. Right? That's the imperial arrogance that we're talking about.
That's a good analogy there. And you combine that with China and their what is it? I think they have a cure for diabetes too. From what I heard, so it's like
because they don't invest in war. They're actually investing in infrastructure. The Chinese eradicated 800 million people. 90% of the extreme poor of the world were raised by the Chinese. They got rid of 800 million people that were in extreme poverty in their country. They got them out of the situation and they put them in better situations in homes. Because how did they eradicate poverty? How did they, invent these things that you're mentioning? Because they don't invest in war like the U.S. empire does. They actually have over 1 billion people paying taxes that invest in infrastructure and medicine and advances in science. We could really learn from that, can't we?
Yeah, you would think so. If we could take off these capitalist blinders that we have here in the United States. I mean, we're in end stage capitalism, and I know that for sure.
It's in decay, brother. It's in decay. The U.S. empire is in decay. We saw the fall of Rome. We're seeing this going on right now.
What do you think is going to happen within the next few years, like as far as the United States is?
So I don't know if in my father's lifetime he'll see the complete collapse of the U.S. empire, but I believe in my lifetime I'll see it. It's going to be going on in the next few years, man. It shows all the conditions if you look at historical empires. Yep. And guess what? The United States is the first empire in history that denies being an empire. It's the most hypocritical empire. The British were very proud of their empire. Right now, we mimic the British Empire, but we deny being an empire. We claim to be a democracy. Are you serious? Yeah. I mean, the last of the voting rights is gone by the corrupt Supreme Court. How can you say we're a democracy anymore? Are elections important? Yeah, they have their role. They had their role in Latin America as well. But I think movement building right now is the only way we're going to change things. Because if you rely on electoralism, you're relying on a corrupt system that rigs it, that makes it where third-party people don't have voices,
Yeah, at least on the national level anyway. I'm in the same boat there too. It's just like we have to shut things down. If you're going to be serious, you have to shut down vital arteries to capitalism in the United States, right? That's why Europe
changing its foreign policy with Israel. You know why? Because the dock workers are refusing to send the arms to Israel anymore. And that's putting pressure on the governments in Italy and Spain and these other countries to give in and now talk about getting out of the EU agreement with Israel for the first time. And it wasn't because they did it out of the goodness of their heart. It was because of the pressure of the strikes and the dock workers. So yes, we need boycotts and pressures and stuff like that to compel the government to act.
Yeah, we need to rush the gates like they're doing down in Bolivia. I'd love to see that here.
By the way, I lived for a time in Spain, and I'm not going to tell you it's a socialist paradise there. It's more progressive in the United States, but a lot of the Spaniards, they see Latin immigrants as inferior as well. So I understand their mentality. The problem about the EU, and this is all related to Latin America, but the problem about the EU is that they don't have an independent foreign policy. They're controlled by NATO and the United States. Now they're starting to rebel a little bit, but there's only so much they can do. At least several Latin American countries are having an independent foreign policy. The U.S. doesn't like that and is pressuring them as a result, but they have that autonomy.
So, I mean, what does the collapse of the United States look like to you?
I think an entirely different system will have to be put in place. So it can never come about through reforms, because reforms is just maintaining the system and making it a little more humane. So it's going to be probably the most similar example to a large country that had a full-scale revolution was the Russian Revolution. And it's closer in history to us than the French Revolution. I think it'll look more like the Bolshevik Revolution. But something like that will have to happen in Washington for things to really change.
Yeah. But I'm one of the guys that's praying for falling rocks to hit certain places too. So that's how I
maybe
want.
Mother Nature will help us out, right? In Latin America, they call her Pachamama. But yeah, if Mother Nature can help us out, that'd be awesome.
Alex,
go ahead.
Yeah. When we're talking about the collapse, which I happen to agree with, the collapse of the empire, do you see the possibility of the collapse of the United States as we now know it, possibility of civil war, and that we might break off into separate territories or individual nations?
Well, remember, when the Tsar fell, the Russians lost a lot of land, and there was a civil war after the revolution. The Bolsheviks were ultimately successful, but they lost some land. Some of the land was returned to Ukraine and other parts of Eastern Europe. So, yeah, something similar might happen here. There could be a second civil war that's after the revolution, where the bourgeois are trying to return to power, that we'll have to push back against. Sorry about the noise in the background. No, they're coming again. I'm just kidding. No, but something like that. I think first a revolution, then maybe a little civil war, hopefully not a big one. A lot of people are armed in this country. Then maybe some land will be given back to Mexico. Something that could play out within my lifetime. I'm not even saying in my lifetime as a young man. I might be in my 70s. But I think it could happen in my lifetime. I'm in my early 40s now. Okay. Maybe in the next 30 years.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, because we're starting to see that too. I mean, you're starting to see the cracks form. And the more we keep electing these idiots to be our leaders, who are just cucks for other countries, one in particular, as you know, it's going to crumble, like you said. I mean, and it's going to be an ugly situation. It's not going. The capitalism in the United States and these crony capitalists are not going to go down easy, for sure.
And to be honest, if it happens, while my father's still alive, he's in his 70s. I'm going to have to leave the country because I take care of him. You know what I mean? I did renew my passport. But if it happens where I'm old enough to fight, I mean, there's people that have gone in battle in their 60s and 70s.
Yep.
Then I joined the fight. But yeah, I mean, it's something that we're all going to have to make tough decisions on. Yeah. Whether we're going to have to stay with our families, escape, and support the cause from abroad, or take part in the fight ourselves.
And I think that also to remember that it's no longer, when we talk about fighting, we're not talking necessarily about conventional weapons or even nuclear weapons. We're talking about cyber attacks. We're talking about what can be done with a very connected economy and infrastructure on the technological level. So I think that there could be roles for a lot of people. And again, people are going to have to make some very hard choices.
Everybody's going to have to buy water purifiers. Be prepared to go to the river and pick up that water and purify it, because the first thing that goes out after electricity goes out is the water.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I have in my home, being a prepper for many years. But yes, thank you.
You remember when the Venezuelan embassy was under attack in Washington? I was there for that.
I remember that.
Yeah, I was there for that. And one of the first things they did when they went after our comrades inside, I was one of the guys at the outside trying to bring water. One of the first things they did was cut the electricity. You know what they had to drink to survive? They had to go on the rooftop to collect rainwater to survive.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the first Trump regime. Now he's totally out of control because you have to worry about re-election. But that's the madness that we're going through right now. A system facilitated that to happen.
Well, Alex, we appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, this has been great.
Perfect timing. I said till 1 o'clock. I literally walked in my car right at 1 o'clock.
Dude,
perfect.
We try to keep the time real nice and tight, and I appreciate you. You gave us some mad knowledge. We got to have you back on and talk.
Please.
Yeah, and don't wait for an invitation. If I get like a full hour, I'll try to be slower next time. But I knew I had to get a lot of information in a short amount of time, and I appreciate you guys being punctual with me. Sometimes I go on shows and they don't let me in for like 15 minutes, so I really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you, and please, if you got to be in your bonnet, let us know. We'll get you on the show. No problem at all.
Alex, I'd like to get you on.
Yeah, when I have more free time, I'll go more in depth. Maybe for a full hour, okay?
Well, so Irish goodbye. Well, that actually timed out just right, because I think his feed crapped out on that end. So thanks, Alex.
That was a really rich time and interview. I love the background there. It was good to hear him talk. I look forward to having him on again. We can talk more.
Yeah. I was going to say, hopefully I could get him on for an hour for Extra Bull Alive at some time. So I'll get with that because yeah, and you can also see him. He's usually on Jamar Jabari's shows too. He's on there. I think he does a show once a week with him and someone else, young lady that's on there too. I can't
He's
remember.
written a lot of books too. He's written
yeah,
so.
he's like written like 16 books. He's got a 17th book on the way out. So it's always good to talk with somebody who has that rich, in-depth knowledge about the history of a place too. Because it's like the old saying, "How do you know where I'm at when you don't know where I've been? You know, or you don't understand where I'm coming from." So, yeah. So thank you, Alex, for that. If you're still listening, we're gonna get to the recurring tide, and we're gonna stay in the Caribbean and talk about Cuba as you know, they've been going through, of course, the blockade for 60 years, and then the recent situation having no fuel for power down there. Now, the U.S. is expected to unveil criminal charges against Raul Castro. There he is right there, 94 years old. Because why? You know why. The Trump administration is expected to announce criminal charges against former Cuban President Raul Castro on Wednesday, which is today, as the U.S. steps up its pressure campaign against the Caribbean islands' communist government. The expected charges come as Trump has been seeking regime change in Cuba, where communists have been in charge since Castro's late brother Fidel led a revolution in 1959. America will not America will not tolerate a rogue state harboring hostile foreign military intelligence and terror operations just 90 miles from the American homeland, Trump mumbled in a statement, even though we have those things here in America. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel said on Monday that the island does not represent a threat. The charges against Castro, 94 years old, is expected to be based on a 1996 incident in which Cuban jets shot down planes operated by a group of Cuban exiles, according to a U.S. Justice Department official. The Miami U.S. Attorney's Office is planning to host an event starting at 1 p.m. Eastern time, so that's just started right now. To honor the victims of the incident, the Justice Department said on Tuesday it would make an announcement in conjunction with the ceremony, but did not provide details about the announcement. The U.S. has effectively imposed a blockade on the island, as we said, threatening sanctions on countries supplying it with fuel, triggering power outages, and delivering blows to its already fragile economy. So, this seems very out of nowhere, like a 1996 incident, and all of a sudden he's doing this now. It just seems like they're trying to pile on Cuba and make them sound worse than what they are.
That's one way of putting it. I think it's also a distraction. It overloads the news feeds. This is every time I think that this administration has done it, it manages to surpass all my expectations of just what it will do. It will just pull things out here, and then the media gets scattered. Meanwhile, we have this tiny nation of people who are doing the best that they can, and they're suffering.
Yeah.
And we're going after a 94 a 94-year-old man. Great.
Yeah, and this has nothing to do with justice. It's distraction and symbology and just more propaganda to pour on these poor people who are incredibly resilient, as Alex points out. Yeah, and are incredibly intelligent too. And it is a good question. What would happen if you lifted the blockade, or hell, never had a blockade in the first place?
Well, I would like to also, that's something else too. It's that Americans are U.S. citizens. We're not supposed to be visiting Cuba. And, there was some opening up of that under the Obama administration, which got rescinded under the first Trump administration. It's, again, if we're supposed to be such a free country, why can't we travel where we want to travel? And, and I happen to know people, for example, who kind of tried to get around this And they got detained at the Canadian border coming into the U.S. They were forced to miss their flight into the U.S. and they were detained and harassed by border agents. Why doesn't this country want people to visit Cuba?
Yeah.
Why can't we go there? And they don't have a history of kidnapping or holding people hostage, which would make a problem for the U.S. government. Why don't they want us down there?
Yeah.
And there's they don't want us to see the people. They don't want us to see how this country is functioning. I remember I was at a party once, and it was a very intelligent young man there. And he said that he felt that to graduate from a U.S. university with a bachelor's degree, you must be required to spend at least one semester in another country, because he felt that a lot of Americans think that all other countries are bad, and that we need to see other countries that are functioning, but that are functioning different from the U.S. What would happen if Americans were down in Cuba and able to spend some real time down there, not in a controlled tourist group, but actually go down there and make their own way, find their way in Cuba, get to know the people, spend some time seeing how things operate? This is something that this country, the U.S., for a very long time has tried to stop or sharply control. This is not freedom.
Willie, good to see you. He said, objectively, Cuba is more free than China in terms of civil liberties, yet the U.S. deals with China, but never with Cuba. Make that make sense? Well, for one thing, China's got nukes. That's usually the bottom line. Are we going to screw around with you? Wait, they got nukes. Now we're not going to screw around with you. See North Korea, right? We don't mess with North Korea. Why? Because they got nukes. That's the bottom line. If Cuba had nukes, well, they did almost have them back in the 60s. And that kind of scared the pee out of some people up north.
And there was a really unfortunate little oink oink incident that took place that was kind of
that wasn't a good look either.
That wasn't oink oink, like oink oink.
So, and I don't think that wasn't Kennedy's idea, right? The Bay of Pigs. It wasn't his. I think that was his advisors, and he just went along with it, like, okay, this sounds good. And then, of course, history tells us that it did not go over too well. But it is just, they don't want people to go see these places that have that socialism is actually working down there, where they're actually doing stuff for their people. Even with the limited amount of resources that they have, they still take care of their people down there too. So can't really say the same in the Middle East, though. That the Gaza flotilla is they have another one. I think this is like the third or fourth one within the last couple of years, I think. But Israeli forces intercept and open fire on Gaza flotilla activists. Now, these people don't have weapons, just so you know. This is peace. They're trying to bring stuff, food and medicine to the Gaza Strip. So as Israeli forces yesterday attacked and seized more vessels that were taking part in the latest global Samud flotilla, trying to break the illegal blockade of Gaza amid the ongoing genocide against the people of the besieged Palestinian territory. Video posted by Global Samud Flotilla shows Israeli forces in inflatable boats firing shots toward at least two GSF vessels, that's the Global Samud Flotilla, even as they are stopped and the activists aboard them have their hands held in the air in surrender. It's not clear what type of ammunition the Israelis fired in the attack, which occurred in international waters around 90 to 100 miles off the Gaza coast. This is an attack on humanity, reads the video's caption, which decried Israeli violence against volunteers who sailed with compassion and love in their hearts. With hands in the air, participants implored, do not shoot. GFS said, this is an attack on Gaza. This is an attack on humanity. In another video posted by GSF, one member is seen talking into a ship's radio, at least one of which was apparently jammed by Israeli forces who broadcast Britney Spears' 2000 hit, Oops, I Did It Again, with their speakers. Probably shouldn't have done that for any reason. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is sailing vessel Zafiro, We are surrounded by military vessels. We are aware that other ships in our fleet have been boarded, and we expect further escalation of hostilities. The man says, we are in international waters. We are suffering an act of piracy. GSF said that hundreds of activists from over 40 countries were being forcibly transferred to Israel, where past flotilla participants say they were physically and psychologically tortured by their captors. Some people saying, well, why are they even trying this in the first place? I mean, they're not really going to help these people. It just seems like some sort of gimmick or something like that. But it raises it keeps the awareness raised about what's going on over there. And it shows
it shows what Israel is.
Yeah. I mean,
it shows their willingness to do this. Yeah.
It's still going on over there. The suffering and the starvation of people in Gaza. It lets people know we haven't forgotten what's going on, even though the Iranian war is taking, precedent as far as like coverage and stuff like that. Because Israel wants you to forget that Gaza exists. That's what they want. And I think these people in the flotilla are trying to keep that alive and say, hey, look, these people need our help.
They're putting their bodies on the line to show something. They're showing something. And they're forcing, they're effectively, they're raising things to the point where they're putting their bodies on the line so they can show Israel for what it is.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about sports last week as far as like broadcasting them, but now we're talking about college sports in a different area, as the NAACP calls for a boycott of Southern college sports programs over voting rights. So the NAACP and Congressional Black Caucus are calling on Black athletes and fans to boycott the athletic programs of public universities in states that are taking steps that the nation's oldest civil rights group says are restricting Black voting rights. Launched yesterday, the NAACP's Out of Bounds campaign urges current and prospective Black athletes, their families, alumni, and fans to withhold athletic and financial support from major public universities in states that have moved to limit, weaken, or erase Black voting representation. If Black athletes participate in the boycott, it could deplete rosters for powerhouse football and basketball programs across the Southeastern Conference and the ACC. That's the Atlantic Coast Conference. The NAACP campaign calls out Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, and South Carolina as states to boycott, arguing that the athletic programs of those states' major universities are especially reliant on Black athletic talent and should protect Black political interests. NAACP President Derek Johnson, during a news conference in front of the U.S. Capitol, accused Republican-led southern states of seeking to reinstitute a sharecropping reality by recruiting Black athletic talent to play for flagship universities while limiting, in his view, our ability to elect candidates of our choice. The ACC, SEC, Florida State University, the University of Alabama, 4 historically Black college and university conferences, SWAC, MEAC, SEAC, and the CIAA, not to be confused with the CIA, that's just one A, and chapter members of the National African American Athletic Alliance in both Texas and Florida did not return the AP's request for comment. NAACP is among groups responding to a wave of gerrymandering in the aftermath of a U.S. Supreme Court ruling that winnowed a key provision of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Johnson repeatedly noted that Black athletes have been a core engine of the college sports business, which drives billions of TV deals, revenues, and reputational prestige. So it's nice to see this. What if it actually happens remains to be seen, but this clarion call for these Black athletes and coaches and anyone involved in the college sports, particularly in the Southeast, as someone who grew up in the Southeast, as somebody who currently lives there, we both know sports is king down in the Southeast there. And if you threaten to shut down your sports, either people are going to listen or they're going to threaten you back. I mean, what do you think is going to happen with this?
Well, I'd like to see white athletes join with them. I mean, I would suggest that white athletes should be working with the NAACP and other Black groups to make sure that what steps that they're taking are in the interest of the cause here. But what I would also say is that it is incredibly important for white students in general. Don't apply to these schools. If you've got a choice, if you don't have to go to that school, go somewhere up north, go somewhere to a state where this kind of thing is not happening.
Yeah.
I would suggest that bookmakers, people who are I'm not going to ask them, but necessarily don't be betting on these teams. Cut them out of that. Would be really fantastic if local affiliates and broadcast networks would refuse to show these games. There could be a total, I won't use the word blackout on this particular issue, and just say, yeah, we're not going to drive any funds one way or the other. We're not going to buy merch. We're not going to bet on any of this. We're not going to watch it. And white students say, yeah, we're not going to apply to these schools. We're going to take ourselves, our bodies, and our tuition dollars outside this state, if they can possibly do so.
Yeah. And you got to take into account too, school boosters as well, that maybe, like you said, not just black people, but white allies, or other allies for black people would join in on this too. Yeah. They always say hit them if you're gonna try and make a difference, you got to hit them in the pocketbook, right?
You do. You have to hit them in the pocketbook. That is the only motivation that people without any principle have.
Yeah. And these colleges, these colleges are out of control too, with especially in the Southeastern Conference and these bigger conferences where they're just paying, not only they're paying the coaches millions of dollars now with these NIL agreements, where the kids get paid. I mean, these kids are getting paid millions of dollars if they're talented enough too. So there's a lot of money involved. And if you shut that down, something's going to happen. There is going to be a reaction, good or bad. That's definitely going to happen. It's probably going to be a reaction too with people who own electric vehicles too. Annual fees, more money for you to pay. That's what they want you to do. As U.S. lawmakers propose annual fees for electric vehicles. Yeah, so not only is there a chance that you could get shut down in the middle of the highway if you didn't pay your car note, now they can, now you got to pay extra money on top of that. So U.S. lawmakers have introduced a transportation bill proposing new annual fees for owners of electric and hybrid vehicles as part of efforts to fund federal highway and infrastructure projects, which is bullshit. They could do it anyway. The nearly $580 billion draft legislation was unveiled by members of the U.S. House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee following negotiations between Democrats and Republicans. According to reports, the good old bipartisan screwing around kind of shit. Under the proposal, owners of fully electric vehicles would be required to pay an annual registration fee of $130 per vehicle, while the amount gradually increasing, to $150 by 2050, if we're even there by then. Owners of hybrid vehicles would also face new annual charges of up to $50. Lawmakers backing the measure say the fees are intended to ensure that electric vehicle users contribute to highway maintenance and transportation funding as governments increasingly seek alternatives to screw people over. To traditional gasoline taxes. The committee argued that the proposal would help maintain long-term funding for transportation infrastructure as the number of gasoline-powered vehicles declines. Current federal highway programs are largely financed through fuel taxes, which generate less revenue as electric vehicle adoption expands across the United States. However, environmental groups criticize the proposal, warning that additional costs on electric vehicles could discourage consumers from shifting away from fossil fuel-powered cars. I wonder. Critics argue the measure risks undermining broader climate and clean energy goals. The House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee is expected to vote on the legislation later this week. The debate comes ahead of the September 30th expiration of the current federal highway funding bill, increasing pressure on lawmakers to secure new long-term infrastructure finance measures. So you think you're going to save money with an electric vehicle, eh? Says the U.S. government. Let me tell you something, mister. Yeah, this just, they're thinking about paying $2.5 trillion for the military, but we're gonna slap $150 on you or $50 on you a year because you're trying to save money yourself and help the environment too.
How about investing in public transportation?
How about that? Well, no gas from that. No gas tax. They don't. I don't know what it is. It's just. They really don't want these electric vehicles. Yes, because it takes away from buying gasoline. Right? If you have an electric vehicle, you're not at the pumps buying, $6, $7, $8 a gallon for gas.
You may be in a parking lot at some big retail store or a shopping mall or something like that where they have the chargers. But yeah, so my take on this is, again, where is the investment in infrastructure and safe, reliable public transportation, which we need. We desperately need that. And it's not happening. And
let's have those bullet trains from China. Let's have those here.
Japan. I saw a video of one of those bullet trains in Japan, and it's like, it was just like, whoa. But the idea of, just reliable transportation, back in the day, by the way, just so in case anybody was wondering, back in the day, up until I think it was the early 90s, Chicago public transit, the L cars actually had conductors. And people talk about, well, they wish the L's were safer, and I agree with that. But there was a way of doing that did not involve police or weapons or anything like that. We actually had conductors who walked up and down. They collected fares and issued transfers, and they took nothing off of anybody. And it worked. It was something that worked. You didn't have people setting up housekeeping. You didn't have many of the things that are happening. And the city just said, well, all other municipalities who have public transit are going to just having the operator and not having a conductor. And it left the people who used public transit in many ways quite helpless. It reduced the quality of service, and all for what?
Yeah. It's we got bridges crumbling in our country, roads, sinkholes, all kinds of stuff. But we got to make sure our priorities are straight, and that means war, right?
War.
See, what's it good for? Absolutely nothing, not to us, but to people who make the money off of it, pretty much a good bit. Let's get to the Man of War stings here, our war items here. Although the fighting has subsided, that doesn't mean it's not boiling under the surface. As Trump says, the U.S. may strike Iran again, but that Tehran wants a deal. That's what he says. And there he is waving his hands. I like cheeseburgers. Cheeseburgers are good. I like cheeseburgers. So Trump said yesterday that the United States may need to strike Iran again, and that he had been an hour away from ordering an attack before postponing it. I guess that's when this McDonald's meal arrived from Grubhub. Trump made the comments a day after saying he had paused a planned resumption of hostilities following a new proposal by Tehran to end the U.S.-Israeli war. I was an hour away from making the decision to go today, he said while sitting on his gold toilet. Iran's leaders are begging for a deal, he said, adding that a new U.S. attack would happen in coming days if no agreement was reached. The U.S. has been struggling to end the war. It began with Israel nearly 3 months ago. Trump has previously said that a deal with Tehran was close and similarly threatened heavy strikes on Iran. If it did not reach an accord, there's more here. But the point of it is this to me just seems like more market manipulation on Trump's part. That's what he's like, man, we're gonna bomb Iran. Boom, 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 boom. Oil prices goes up. We're gonna have peace. We're gonna have peace. And then oil prices go down, but the gas prices don't. So it just seems like market manipulation here. Or do you think he's actually really gonna do it?
Who knows? I mean, at this point, there's an agenda here. I am not privy to it. And even if things seem to have calmed down, I can tell you that the people and leaders of Iran are not terribly happy at this point. So with us at this point, so we're going to be paying for this for a long time, one way or the other.
Hey, Jackie, good to see you. Well, yeah, and he's going to keep doing it for as long as he can make money off of it.
Yeah, and the other thing about gas prices, I mean, I'm probably going to look at this maybe next week or the week after. A lot of the SNAP restrictions are now in place. So in addition to the inflation with the food, people are having to get to the store is more expensive. With the gas prices, this is really hitting the most vulnerable right now, and this country has just made it worse by putting in SNAP restrictions. The cruelty is the point, as people say.
Yep. And Trump thought this thing was going to be over in a few days, and they severely underestimated Iran and their leaders. Even though a lot of them were killed, there's still a leadership structure there that's not only functional. They prepared for this for many years. As Iran studied U.S. airstrike tactics, extracted missiles and launchers. So while the peace has been going on for now, Iran's been loading up. So Iran successfully studied the flight patterns of American fighter jets and bombers, allowing it to defend more effectively against U.S. airstrikes, according to the New York Times, citing a senior U.S. military official. So this wasn't coming from Iran. This is coming from the U.S. Iran also used a period of ceasefire to extract missiles and launchers from previously bombed positions, according to the official Iranian commanders, possibly with Russian assistance, to analyze the flight patterns of U.S. fighter jets and bombers, including aircraft involved in recent strikes. The official warned that the downing of an F-15E fighter jet last month, along with ground fire directed at an F-35, revealed that U.S. aerial tactics have become highly predictable, enabling Iran to mount more efficient defenses. So on Iran's missile capabilities, a U.S. official stated that Tehran exploited the ceasefire to clear dozens of ballistic missile sites that had been bombed and to reposition mobile launch patterns. Despite sustaining losses, Iran has adjusted its tactics in anticipation of any renewed strikes. So they have not been sitting on their laurels, as they say, in Iran. As we've noted before, that they've been preparing for this for many decades. And so the time has finally come, and I guess the United States didn't know how well prepared they would be.
The author and collapsologist, I guess I would call him, John Michael Greer, has made the point that right now we are dealing with some very old cultures, specifically China and Iran or Persian. And his point that he makes is that these older cultures, they tend to be far more patient than upstart cultures.
Hey, hang on just a second, Lainey. I'll be right back. Okay.
No worries. They tend to be far more patient than upstart cultures or newer cultures, and they understand that things take time. They can take years, decades, centuries, even millennia. And they've been around long enough. They've been functioning long enough that they understand that what they do now, what their people do right now, their leaders or just individuals do now, they may not even see those results. They may not be able to survive long enough to see what's going on. But they can prepare, and they are willing to prepare, and they are willing to invest because they know that this investment now will eventually bring in some returns. So it doesn't surprise me at all that Iran has been planning this for well on half a century, and perfectly willing to do this and to make these sacrifices to study U.S. Behavior and military interests, and our tactics, so that they would be prepared to meet us where we are right now. And I think that's important when we're thinking about any of this, is that these cultures have a lot more patience than we do, and they've been thinking far further ahead, and they are committed to the future in the way I think that certainly American culture is not.
Yeah, we sure as hell ain't thinking about the future. We are a right now kind of situation. We're reactionary.
Ornery adolescents, which is exactly what they do. Yeah.
We have a lot to learn from other countries, but like you said, for so long, America number one, we had that drilled into our head as kids, that we were the number one country in the world. And it turns out now that we're only number one in two things: military budget and people incarcerated per capita, I believe. So winning, right? Isn't that where we're at? So this surprised me really as we get to the press pool here.
Stop clocks and all that.
Yeah, I know. Trump actually trying to do a good thing here with as Trump vows to stop ridiculous removal of AM radio from cars. I mean, how that is in the grand scheme, where that fits in the grand scheme, I'm not sure, but it is important to people who for AM radio anyway. Excuse me. So in the midst of turmoil in the Middle East, Trump acknowledged that the push to keep AM radio in vehicles had slipped off his radar. Had slipped off his radio. From showing my Freudian slip, but recommitted to acting on the bipartisan AM radio for every vehicle act during an interview last week. So the comments came during a call in to Red Apple Media's 77 WABC in New York City, where host Sid Rosenberg raised the dashboard fight near the end of an extended conversation. So I've got to stop that, Trump said when Rosenberg mentioned how automakers are moving to pull AM from new vehicles. Why are they doing that? Why do they want to take AM radio? It's so ridiculous. Why? Trump then offered that he personally intervened to prevent AM removal during his first term. Rosenberg cited House Majority Leader Steve Scalise's message to WABC owner John Catsimatidis. I've interviewed him, by the way. Yeah, he's the cat's pajamas, the Matidis. That Trump is the key to the legislation's passage. This way, this is the way it happens, because not only that's not on my radar, and all of a sudden it gets done and you don't even know about it. But I wish people would have called me indirectly. You called me by calling me on your show, and I'll work on that. Trump pledge. So the comments land as the AM Radio for Everything Vehicle Act sits in congressional limbo, despite commanding more than 375 co-sponsors across both chambers. The bill, which would require the Department of Transportation to mandate AM radio as standard safety equipment in all new passenger vehicles, has been awaiting a floor vote in both houses. So where is this going? Is this thing actually going to get done?
Well, I certainly hope so. And as Jacqueline points out, yes, AM radio is very useful for getting weather conditions and road closures, among other things. Absolutely. But I'm hoping, because remember, this bill is co-sponsored by Markey and Cruz. Ted Cruz. Okay. They came together across that aisle. And the one thing I'll say about Ted Cruz is that he does come out fighting for the First Amendment. He really does. He has done this more than once. And the person who has fought this in many ways is Elon Musk, because he doesn't like that there has to be a little bit of extra work in electric vehicles to ensure that there's no signal disruption. But it's not a huge deal. And it's just not that big of a deal, but he's angry about it, and he's stuck in his ways. I'm hoping that this gets done. And I know that Donald Trump is talking about being pro-God content. And some people have said, well, the only reason this is even a consideration is because AM radio is dominated by talk, and much of it is conservative talk. But the reality is Ed Markey, who is, he's not, we all know he's a Democrat, and he is considered to be a liberal. And he has fought for this as well. So the idea, though, here is that the car, again, we need to keep the radio in the cars for emergency situations, as Jacqueline points out. The fact is that there are still many parts of this country in rural areas where reception is not always good, particularly if you're going through mountains. AM radio and AM signals are very strong, so that people can get news and information and entertainment as they're moving around. Yes, in emergency situations, this is absolutely critical. It needs to also, I also need to mention that the backbone of the the primary entry point system, which is an emergency broadcast program in the United States. I think there are 77 stations that have this designation. They have been hardened against nuclear attack, for example, so that they have bunkers stocked with MREs and chemical toilets, so that certain stations will remain on the air to provide news and information, which can be life-saving in these situations. The backbone of that is the AM band. There are only a handful of FM stations that are part of that particular program. Also, to keep in mind that if you have a whole bunch of cars that do not have AM radios in them, that could be the demise of many radio stations across the country. They're going to go out of business. And when that happens, and this is where it gets very serious, when that happens, the towers are decommissioned. They hand back their licenses to the FCC, and it's going to be a lot harder to rebuild that source of information in the media for a community if that's ever possible again. And we know right now, and living down here in Arkansas, having come from Chicago, where we have a choice of media, broadcast and otherwise, coming down here to Arkansas, I have come to really appreciate what a good radio station can offer, because it's really an important and free and very accessible source of news when I don't have a lot of choices. So this is going to impact, if the AM radios are taken out of the cars, it's really going to impact people all over the country, but particularly in rural areas, and that is a real problem.
Yeah, I liken it to emergency situations down on the coast, right? When you have a hurricane situation coming through, people tend to forget that AM is not line of sight, right?
Right.
FM is, and so is the internet. So, or in particularly cell towers, right?
Yeah.
So like in a hurricane situation, you're trying to get out on a evacuation route. An evacuation route may be blocked at some point, and people don't know it. But if they're broadcasting it on AM radios, they will know this as they're traveling, because the FMs are going to be knocked out. You're not going to be able to use your Google Maps to guide you through it, because the cell towers are going to be down too, unless you have like a satellite phone, something, which most people don't. Yeah, that's one of the primary reasons for, like you said, for emergencies. And that's a particular example of how AM bests either one of those things as far as like information gathering.
And even if the cell towers are still functioning and you can get stuff off the phone, the reality is then you've got this person who's already stressed out in an emergency situation, fiddling with the phone. That could lead to accidents. That leads to pileups. And then basically you've basically got a morgue that's going to happen on that road. A few years ago, there was a horrific thing that happened in Illinois down, I think it was central Illinois. There was a dust storm, and it caused a horrific pileup of cars. And many people died. It was apparently a very gruesome situation because cars just kept on running into each other. And without that kind of information coming into your car and say, stop, pull over or turn around or just, wait for help. That sort of communication is absolutely needed. It may not come in easily over a phone. Not everybody has a phone. That phone may be charging, and you don't want people fiddling with their phones. You want them to be able to push a button and get the information that they need. In addition to, and we'll talk about this in the next story, but news, information, culture, these are all important. And radio is a very effective way of getting that out there.
Well, let's get to that. So the National Public Radio trims jobs in newsroom overhaul as it confronts era without public funding. So NPR is restructuring its newsroom, including cutting some reporting and editing jobs as it attempts to keep pace with changing audience habits while adjusting to an era without federal subsidies. NPR president and CEO Catherine Maher says the network has to fill a gap of $8 million in its $300 million annual budget because of the elimination of federal subsidies for its member stations, which pay NPR, to air programs such as Morning Edition and All Things Considered. In a memo to staff, she said the network expects to earn $15 million less in station fees this year and is anticipating a drop in corporate sponsorship revenue. The network is offering buyouts to approximately 300 employees, mostly within news gathering desks in the newsroom. Staff of NPR's news programs, including hosts, are not eligible. The actual number of departing journalists will be far smaller, NPR officials say. They say they will accept up to 30 buyouts, but more targeted layoffs would ensue if an insufficient number of employees take voluntary buyouts by next Tuesday, May 26th. Paradoxically, just prior to the announcement of these cost-cutting measures, NPR received a pair of private gifts totaling $113 million, representing the network's second and third largest in its 56-year history. Most of that money, however, is dedicated to technological innovation. Mars also acknowledges a mighty wave of individual contributions following Congress's vote last summer to take back all $1.1 billion it already had committed to public media. Those donations have helped sustain the network and the member stations, though many have announced their own layoffs over the past. So yeah, is this basically the beginning of the end for NPR? Is this going to evolve into something else? What's going to happen?
We're going to have to see. They go later on in the article. One of the things they brought up is that they've had to do some real consolidation of various news desks. So I think they've consolidated, for example, I want to say like education and religion and something else into one role. Here's the problem. Education and religions are two different things. And you've got, they are two different things. And it's important to have reporters who understand both. And yes, understanding religion is absolutely critical. I don't know if you remember, Uncle Warren, the Branch Davidian fiasco that took place. Waco. Okay. One of the real problems with the reporting on that was that the journalists did not understand religion. And they were frankly talking out of their patoots, and they were associating the Branch Davidians and conflating them with Seventh-day Adventists, who are basically vegetarian pacifists. And yes, they had branched off for a long time, but it had happened a long time ago. The Seventh-day Adventists were upset, and it was a horrific situation. Eventually, just as we know, we all know what happened there, and it was absolutely horrific. But one thing that sprang from that was my alma mater, Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evanston, worked with Northwestern's Medill journalism program to create a joint master's degree in journalism and religion. You would actually get a theological studies or an MDiv from Garrett, as well as your master's in journalism, because that's how bad the reporting was. So when you have these roles being, and they're putting one person on multiple beats that may seem to have something in common, but not really. It's like social studies. When you go from having, say, history and civics, and then you conflate it all into social studies, you kind of get you're kind of missing a whole lot. And so this is a real concern. On the flip side, I can tell you that I know our local station down here, KUAF, in Northwest Arkansas, they've seen a revitalization. They've been getting some money in. They've been putting it into morning news programs. They have an excellent program for local news and regional news called Ozarks at Large. They've got one of the best music programs. They're just wonderful music programs. And again, being down here and not having a lot of choice in media, I've come to see just how incredibly valuable NPR stations are, even if I'm not always crazy about their takes and the fact that they get a lot of corporate support, which I think can compromise their coverage. Nonetheless, they have a valuable role to play. So I would urge people to, if you look around, and it doesn't have to be an NPR affiliate, but if there's a community or a public radio station, and there are some that are outside the NPR network, consider supporting them so that they can continue to broadcast.
Yeah, that's one concern I have now that the subsidies are gone. That how skewed is the news coverage going to be, depending on who's providing funding.
Yeah, and NPR is really good about if they report on Apple or something like that. They're very good at saying something along the lines of, this particular organization contributes to NPR, and they do disclose that. But it does kind of show you that this is a big organization that offers programming that sometimes local stations on their own would not be able to have. And they have the network, they have the satellite. We've reported on that as well. The satellite distribution is also very critical. So I think that this is a pivotal time for media in the United States. Oh, NPR, National Public Radio. Jacqueline, thank you for asking the question. It's a network. It's a network that provides news programming for public radio stations. And what you can do if you have a public radio station is you become part of one of their affiliates. You get a lot of you can take and broadcast some of their national and international news reporting and other cultural programming. And the affiliate stations are expected to produce their own shows that can be included for other stations to take as well. So it's kind of a trading system that exists. But yeah, National Public Radio, and they do have some excellent reporting. They have a wonderful quiz show, Great Wait, Don't Tell Me, great music reporting, human interest stories. And they're oftentimes based in not always, but they're oftentimes based in universities. That's what we have here at the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville. In Chicago, they also have some HD1 stations that do things like hip hop or Hispanic music. So they do a lot for their communities.
Yeah, and if you want to read the full stories that we're covering today, we're going to have those in our Substack. So, and the link's down below on the crawl. It's also down below in the description for you too. So, and I highly suggest you read the whole thing in full because we're just kind of skimming over some of these at the point, but it's fine. We're getting to the meat and taters of it. Now we get to the stupid stuff with the clownfish school, and this whole ballroom situation in DC is really this is like talking about that. Remember that movie from the 80s? Was that they had what's her name from Cheers, and it was called The Money Pit.
Oh yes,
Tom Hanks I think was in that too. Yeah, I
think that was a remake too, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. I'll try to stay away from that, but here we go. I wish this was a something that wasn't real. So Trump brags that $1 billion ballroom will be home to the quote the greatest drone empire ever seen to protect Washington. Yeah, it sounds like they're building a bunker because they know big people are going to come after him. With his approval rating hitting a second term low in recent polling, Trump decided yesterday to show off the progress being made on the luxury ballroom he's building at the White House. While speaking with reporters outside the White House, Trump boasted that the planned ballroom will be something incredible. Yeah, that's for sure. And then explained that it would apparently come with military defense capabilities. He said, on top of the roof, on top of the roof, we're going to have the greatest drone empire that you've ever seen. And it's going to protect Washington. A reporter then asked Trump to elaborate on some of the security features in the ballroom. He goes, the underneath part of the ballroom is far more complex than the upper, the president responded, because what you don't see are the floors that are beneath here, and they have very, very important rooms down there. Yeah, don't be specific. The most important, this is the one opportunity for the military to do so. You know, when he does stuff like this, this is the greatest ever stuff. It just sounds like somebody who's just making up a story as they go along. And yeah, man, I saw this thing up in the sky. It's the biggest thing I ever saw, man. It was just like, almost like the fishing stories, right? I caught a fish this big. After rambling about the ballroom being ahead of schedule, Trump said it would have a drone-proof roof. Again, it's all sealed, and all this that you see is totally sealed. And we use it as a drone port. You can have unlimited drones up there, and drones are what's happening right now. Seems like he's just droning on about these drones, isn't he? Trump also reiterated his disinterest in Americans' concerns about his illegal war with Iran, raising the price of gas and leading to the highest level of inflation since 2023. This is peanuts, Trump said of the price of gas, which as of Tuesday stood at an average of $4.53 per gallon in the U.S. And I appreciate everybody putting up with it for a little while. It won't be much longer, but I don't even think about that. What I think about is you can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon, and you won't have a nuclear weapon. Okay, so basically, yeah, so he don't even care anymore about keeping up appearances that he cares about people.
Yeah,
it's that's over. And I think he's building this bunker because he knows the pitchforks and torches are definitely coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah. With apologies to the late lamented Bon Scott, it's like he's singing, we have the biggest balls of them all.
Yeah.
If you remember that song.
Yeah.
It's whoa. Okay.
Yeah, this there's really no need for this, right? This just seems like yet another distraction from what I don't know. This seems like you hear dumb stuff like this, and then some sneaky shit in the background happens, and you're like, see, well, we need to focus on this ballroom. The ballroom's more important than anything, and then you talk to people who are still in the MAGA cult. They're like, yes, he's definitely got to have this ballroom. I don't see why the American people don't want him to have this bunker.
There are bunkers, first of all. So, and there are planes, and there are ways of ensuring continuity of government at this point. But yeah, I mean, that is absolutely the case. But I would point out, and I keep saying this, is he keeps on saying we cannot ever let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And as much as it pains me to quote Dr. Phil, it is true that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. One country has used a nuclear weapon in warfare. That is the United States. So why should we be allowed to have a nuclear weapon? What if there was a rule, okay, you can have a nuke program, but if you actually use it, that's it. You will not. The international community will demand that you never have nuclear weapons again.
Yeah, I mean, talking to Alex, once we get to that end point, they may be coming for the nukes too, and they may be coming for everything else, and bunkers at that point ain't going to help you because people know where the bunkers are. So, especially when you advertise that, yes, we got this bunker right under this ballroom. That kind of like Wile E. Coyote painting the X on the map there where the Roadrunner is going to be. This next one is wild.
Yeah.
Speaking of just dumb thing, with technology the way it is now, it just seems like anybody and their mom can just even with just a few hacking skills can get into something. And even sometimes people they just leave the front door open for you. Like, here you go. So a hotel check-in system left 1 million passports and driver's licenses open for anyone to see. Privacy. This guy with the privacy. A hotel check-in system left more than 1 million customer passports, driver's licenses, and selfie verification photos to the open web after a security lapse. Oh, the data is now offline after TechCrunch alerted the company responsible. The hotel check-in system, called Tabeek, is maintained by the Japan-based tech startup Recrea for a Dream. According to its website, Tabeek is used in several hotels across Japan and relies on facial recognition and document scanning to check guests in. Independent security researcher Nurag Sen contacted TechCrunch earlier this week after discovering that the system was leaking the sensitive documents of hotel guests from around the world. Sen said this was because the startup set one of its Amazon cloud-hosted storage buckets, which the check-in system uses to store customer data, to be publicly accessible. The data inside could be viewed by anyone using a web browser without needing a password by knowing only the bucket name Tabeek. Sen alerted TechCrunch in an effort to help notify the company. Recrea locked down the storage bucket after TechCrunch reached out to both the company and Japan cybersecurity coordination team, JP CERT. This latest lapse underscores a recurring problem of companies exposing or spilling their customers' personal information and sensitive documents, not through sophisticated attacks, but by failing to follow basic cybersecurity practices. So, and there's more here, but is there just too much technology for people to handle that they're just leaving doors open like this for people? I mean, this is just ridiculous.
They're calling it a tech, they call it the tech stack, and they don't even have decent IT people in charge of this. Honestly, Amazon's cloud service should have had security on this sort of thing. Should have had some kind of warning system. We back in the day, I'm not saying that things were always as convenient, but you didn't have this level of risk. Period. End of sentence. We got some breaking news. Department of Justice has charged Raul Castro with 4 counts of murder. I'm looking here, Uncle Warren. I will send it over if you want to see it in our private. Where is it? Private chat. Apparently, this he has been indicted.
Yeah, so
on,
he was
on over fatal 1996 civilian plane shooting. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that was expected today. They knew they were going to be doing that today. The next step is what they're actually going to do with him. Are they going to come and get him? And that's probably going to be one of the bigger stories we're going to cover as that develops, probably within the next few days, if not within the week before next week's show. But getting back to this data thing, where it's like they're requiring you to do everything. We were talking about Discord, and they wanted people to do facial recognition and stuff like that. And people said, no, we're not doing that. And Discord backed down. But these hotels, is that the thing? Do you have to, when you go to book a hotel where you're going somewhere like in Japan, and say, hey, you have to find out, do you guys do like facial recognition, any of this kind of stuff beforehand? Because you may not want to give up that information, not only because it's your private information, but also because of idiocy that allows people anywhere around the world with a web browser to see, your data like that. And it's, it's very haphazard, to say the least. And I think that's probably just going to get worse
and it can be sold.
Along.
And that information can be sold, and it's used to do identity theft. It's used to do social engineering, where they call a customer service representative and they are able to provide enough information on you that the customer service representative is absolutely convinced that they are talking to you.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I will tell you this. I was one last thing. I remember, I want to say this was in the very, very early 80s, perhaps. My father, this was back when if you paid with a credit card, the gas station attendant, they didn't have any pay at the pump. I mean, you gave it to the gas station attendant, and they would take it and put it on a little machine it wasn't even a machine. They would actually slide the carbon copy. And he offered, I said, sir, do you want your carbon copy? And my father's like, well, why would I want that? And he said, do you want the carbon? And he said, because people are stealing this and using and stealing your card information.
Remember that.
And that was a new thing back then. And the identity theft and this sort of thing was continuing to happen. With all these conveniences came a whole other set of dangers. And I'm certainly not saying that some conveniences aren't worth the trade-off, but if this is where we're at, where you have these startups run by numpties who do not understand basic security, and they're working with companies like Amazon Web Services who are not putting their own safeguards in this to prevent numpties running startups from making stupid mistakes, it is the consumer who is going to suffer for this.
Yeah. And like I said, the least care that's put into these systems and attention to details, it's probably just going to get worse. So, we end today with something a little wild. I know there's a rivalry sort of between New York and Chicago, pizza wise. We've had those debates. And certain members of our audience tend to think that Chicago's pizza is the best, whatever. But that doesn't mean we have to go like giving people speeding tickets. Okay, so here we are. Do you remember you remember the TV show Knight Rider, right? David Hasselhoff, the Hoff in the car.
Yeah.
It's fun fact. The voice of Kit was his last name was Dan. I think it was Daniels. I don't. He ended up being the principal on one of these shows with the world. I can't remember, but he was a doctor on St. Elsewhere, and he was the voice of Knight Rider. That's what I was trying to get to. But anyway, so Knight Rider somehow got a ticket in New York City, and guess what? The car is not in New York City. It's in Illinois. Illinois Museum's Knight Rider car over there at the Volo Museum gets a speed ticket from New York City. Let's listen to CBS Chicago here. They're going to tell us more about this. Let's watch.
A far northwest suburban museum got a traffic ticket for one of its vehicles in the mail. But the Volo Museum says the car hasn't moved in years. The popular automotive museum shared this ticket they got in the mail from the New York City Police Department of Finance. They sent a $50 ticket after they say Knight Rider's Kit vehicle went 11 miles over the speed limit. That was happening in a school zone, according to the mailer. The museum says the New York City official system must have connected the novelty plates in the picture to the car in their museum. The strange thing is this car from the iconic show starring David Hasselhoff has been stationary in the museum for years. The Volo Museum shared a picture of their security footage with CBS News Chicago. It's dated at the exact time of that speeding ticket, shows the car parked there, couldn't have been in New York. The museum tells us they requested a hearing about the ticket. We've also reached out to the New York City Department of Finance, and we are waiting to hear.
Yay! Knight
It
Rider.
Sounds to me like somebody's having some fun at the expense of New York's Department of Finance.
I think
they have a rogue employee that,
or they're just stupid and you couldn't figure out that wasn't the Knight Rider car just because it said Knight on it. I mean, I think on the Knight Rider actual car it says like Knight Rider, but like squished so it'll fit into like 8 letters or something. But I don't know. That just seems like a dig on Chicago. Like, yeah, keep your car out of our city. It's like, our car wasn't in your city. What do you want? David Hasselhoff had no comment on the situation, although he was in New York at the time. Me wonders what that was about. Yeah, a little fun there. I'm really interested. Have you ever been to the Volo Museum?
I don't think I have. I don't think I have. And I think the name sounds familiar, but that's because there's a really good wine bar in Chicago called Volo. So I have a feeling that that's what I'm conflating it with, but I don't think I've ever been there.
I believe they have other like vehicles that there too. I think they may have the Batmobile there too. I'm not quite sure.
That'd be fun.
Or at least a replica of it. So from the 60s, not from like Christopher Nolan. Although they might, I don't know. I'd love to go up there and check it out. My dad was an auto mechanic for at least 30 years here in Chicago, and he's always telling me about different cars and stuff like that. And always just fascinated with the old school cars. These cars today, I tell you, I'm not.
I tell you, these cars today, these whippers.
Yeah, but back then, you know, you had some really cool cars. You had some like I remember there was one with a I guess they had the front. I can't remember the name of the car, but it had bucket seats in the front, and like they would turn 90 degrees so you could get out of the car instead of you having to climb off, you know, and then when you sit down, you sit back down and it just goes zip and then it face forward. They don't make them like that anymore. It's crazy.
You know where you can find some really cool cars is in Cuba, but we're not allowed to go visit.
the whole country is an auto museum exhibit.
You've seen those, the photos and the postcards, and just how incredibly gorgeous some of the street photography is there because of those cars.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I really want to go down to Cuba. I really do.
I don't know why. You know, and then they used to have cruise ships that would go down there, and there were some problems with that because it didn't really benefit the people as much. But I would just love to be able to go down there, but I'm not going to deal with rigmarole. I'm not going to be abused by border agents. Exactly.
Maybe someday within our lifetimes we'll be able to go down there.
Once we split off from the U.S. and we have the revolution and we split off and break off.
Yeah.
In the second Civil War.
We just gotta get these people to get off their tuchuses and get out there and shut stuff down. Otherwise, things aren't going to change.
Let's really just, let me get back to Chicago first.
Yeah. So you're going to be up here pretty soon too.
I am going to be up there pretty soon. So I'm looking forward to it.
Couple weeks.
Gonna see my peeps. Peeps. Very important to me.
Well,
do some reporting and it's going to be great.
Yeah. It'll be good to see you when you come up here.
I love seeing you all. I really do. Miss you.
Yeah. It's always a good time. You and your tinned fish
and wine
and weird nuts.
You went.
You know what I'm talking about.
You like my wine, is what you like, Uncle Warren.
The wine is good. You know, we
cheese too. Remember that cheese that I brought?
Yeah, the cheese was good. We still have a bottle of that wine in the fridge too. So
why don't you guys drink it? I left it for you.
Maybe we're waiting on you to come back.
All right, then we'll have that, but I have to pick up a few more bottles because
maybe it doesn't taste as good unless you're around. So you don't know these things. You never know. We don't like to tempt fate. Other than that, I guess that's it for today. You got anything coming up? Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Oh, just a great show. Thanks again for bringing Alex on. He was fantastic. Hope to bring him on again. Next week, our good friend, Uncle Bill Tilford, will be back on the show, be talking about some other things. And we always have a great show with him. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Bill is becoming a regular, and we like regulars around here, especially when they got plenty of good stuff to talk about. I'm on hiatus with my shows right now. I'm kind of tweaking and
I'm missing them.
I'm actually working on something on the side. I don't want to divulge it right now, but that's part of the mix. And hopefully that once I get to a point where I can actually tell people about it, I'll tell them. But right now it's a little on the hush hush. But we might so no Friday shows for me until probably June 5th. I'll come back with those. We may have a spot show here and there with Extra Bull Alive if I can get I may get Alex back on for that.
Good.
And give him a whole hour to just like boom, go, man. Because he is a wealth of knowledge too. Bill too. It's good to have both them on. All our guests that come on have just really been very informative. So
we are so blessed.
Other than that, we'll be back with this show next week, next Wednesday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time. We do it on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook, and we're on Substack as well. We also have donation links down below in the description if you want to help out our friends. If you can't make any donations yourself, if you can share out those links, we appreciate it. Our buddy Yoninah is one of them. She's trying to get to Chicago with her lovely little kitty, and she's been dealing with some struggles to try to get back up here. So if you can help out with that, we really appreciate it. So anything else before we get out of here?
That's it. Looking forward. First of all, thank you all for being here. We're up to now 91 subscribers on our Undercurrent YouTube channel. If you could, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. That it just takes a second and it means a great deal. Also, if you're not subscribing to our Substack, it is free and it does give you show notes. And I'm looking to beef up things a little bit. So we'll get us maybe a second newsletter during the week that kind of gives more links and context to what's been going on. So I'm hoping to do that, but please subscribe to that as well. We appreciate it.
All righty. Well, we will see you guys next week. Take care of yourselves and each other, and keep your critical thinking skills sharpened. Go ahead.
And beware tinned fish and weird nuts.
That'll do it. Peace out, y'all.